What if one single date on the calendar gave birth to a man whose ideas would go on to dominate half the world for nearly a century? Launched a voyage that accidentally reshaped the entire map of human civilization? Sparked a movement so powerful it forced governments to finally listen? And witnessed the moment humanity crossed a line in warfare it has never truly come back from? April 22nd. Ideologies, exploration, movements, and a decision made on a battlefield that changed war forever. Stay with me, because the story we're ending on today is one that should make every single one of you uncomfortable. We're just getting started. Welcome back, and if you're new here, this is where history isn't just something you memorize, it's something you feel. Because history isn't dead, it's alive. It's the reason the world looks the way it does right now. Today, April 22nd. 4 completely different moments from 4 completely different worlds, and yet somehow all connected by one idea. What humans choose to believe and what they're willing to do because of it. Before we dive in, I want you to think about something. What's the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear April 22nd? Most people will say Earth Day, and yes, we're going there, but the other stories, those are the ones that will stay with you. It begins in 1870 in a quiet Russian town. Nothing about that moment looked extraordinary. A child was born into a relatively comfortable family. His father was a government official. His life, at least in the beginning, looked predictable, stable. But history rarely announces itself when it arrives, because that child would grow up to become Vladimir Lenin, and his ideas would go on to reshape the 20th century more than almost any other individual. But here's the part most people miss. He wasn't born into chaos, he was pulled into it. At 17 years old, his older brother was executed by the state for plotting to assassinate the Tsar. That moment didn't just break his family, it changed him completely. Grief turned into anger. Anger turned into ideology. He immersed himself in revolutionary thought. He studied Karl Marx. He became convinced that the entire system around him wasn't just flawed, it had to be destroyed. And not slowly, not peacefully, completely. Years passed, exile, writing, organizing, waiting, until the moment came. World War I had pushed Russia to the edge. The government was collapsing. People were starving, angry, desperate, and Lenin returned. Within months, everything changed. A revolution, a government overthrown, power seized, and for the first time in history, a communist state was born. But revolutions don't end when power is taken. That's when they begin. Civil war followed. Millions died. A system was built that placed the state above the individual, that crushed opposition, that controlled thought, speech, and life itself. Lenin didn't live to see what it would fully become, but the structure he created, the blueprint, would go on to influence regimes responsible for tens of millions of deaths across the 20th century. All of it tracing back to ideas. Ideas that began forming in the mind of a teenager who watched his brother die. Now shift the scene from cold Russia to the open ocean. The year is 1500. A fleet of ships cuts through the Atlantic, led by a Portuguese explorer named Pedro Álvares Cabral. His mission wasn't to discover anything new. He was trying to reach India. But sometimes the biggest moments in history happen by accident. Because somewhere along that journey, they went too far west, and on April 22nd, land appeared on the horizon. A coastline, vast, green, alive. A place that had existed for thousands of years, completely unknown to the world they came from. They stepped on it, claimed it, named it, and just like that, the future of an entire continent changed. What followed wasn't just exploration, it was colonization. Cultures collided, civilizations were disrupted, millions of indigenous lives were lost to disease, violence, and forced labor, and millions more Africans were brought across the ocean in chains. But history is complex because from that same moment, something else was created, a country that would grow into one of the most vibrant, diverse, and culturally rich places on Earth, Brazil. All of it from one moment, one decision, or maybe one accident. Now, fast forward, the world is different, industrial, modern, powerful, and breaking. The year is 1970. Rivers are so polluted they catch fire. Cities are covered in smog so thick people can barely breathe. Wildlife is dying, water is toxic, air is poison, and for a long time, nobody in power is doing anything about it, until people decide they've had enough. On April 22nd, something incredible happens. Millions of ordinary people, students, workers, families, step outside. Not for war, not for politics, but for the planet itself. 20 million people, all at once. It becomes one of the largest mass movements in history. And this is the part that makes it different from so many other protests. It works. Laws change. The Environmental Protection Agency is created. Clean Air Acts, Clean Water Acts, real, measurable impact. The same rivers that once burned begin to heal. The same skies filled with smoke begin to clear. It doesn't solve everything, but it proves something powerful, that when enough people come together, change isn't just possible, it's inevitable. And then we come to the final story, the one that changes everything in a different way. April 22nd, 1915, a battlefield in Belgium, World War I. For months, soldiers had been stuck in trenches, mud, barbed wire, endless gunfire. No progress, just death. Both sides were desperate, and on that day, a new kind of weapon was introduced. Not bullets, not bombs, gas. A strange yellow-green cloud began to move across the battlefield. At first, nobody understood what it was, and then it reached them. Breathing became impossible. Lungs burned, vision blurred. Men didn't fall from wounds, they suffocated, slowly, helplessly. It was the first large-scale use of chemical warfare in modern history. And in that moment, something changed, because war had crossed a line. Science, industry, human intelligence had been turned into something designed not just to kill, but to do it in the most terrifying way imaginable. And once that line was crossed, there was no going back. Other nations followed. Gas became a weapon of war, and the idea that anything could be justified if it meant victory took root. 4 moments, one date, April 22nd. A man whose ideas reshaped nations, an explorer who changed the course of continents, a movement that proved people still have power, and a decision on a battlefield that changed how far humanity can go when it chooses to. And here's the thread that connects them all. Ideas have consequences. Every belief, every decision, every action, they don't stay in the moment, they move forward, through years, through generations, sometimes forever. So here's what I want to ask you. Out of everything we talked about today, which one do you think changed the world the most? Lenin, Cabral, Earth Day, or that moment on a battlefield in 1915? Tell me why. I'll be reading your answers. And if this made you see history a little differently, hit like, because these stories deserve to be heard. And if you want to know what happened every single day in history, subscribe. I'll see you tomorrow.